Michael Apple is here to explain the process is underway as we wait for that announcement on the cabinet from President Cyril Ramaphosa. Michael, so much being said, so much going on. Where do we even begin?
Well, we have to start logically at the beginning, which is the 8th of May. So that's the day South Africans cast their votes. Counting is done on the 11th of May. The results are announced. 57.5%, 230 of the 400 seats go to the ANC in Parliament, giving them a majority, although it's a reduced majority on the 22nd of May, which is last week Wednesday. All the MPs are sworn into Parliament, barring some we'll get to in a second. Those MPs vote for the President. Cyril Ramaphosa is elected as the new President of the country by those members of Parliament. Now, the law says, the Constitution says that a President must, within 5 days of having been elected by Parliament, assume office, as in be inaugurated. That happens on Saturday afternoon. He is inaugurated at Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria. Then the Sunday papers start speculating about the composition of this new cabinet, just how tough a decision it's going to be when he's compiling this. And this is when they release their statement, making an interesting point here, that the presidency will make the announcement later in the week, which got a lot of people thinking, but traditionally we've seen the announcement of the cabinet within 1 or 2 days maximum. Now we're looking at a week. Kusila Diko saying on the show this morning that it'll be by Friday, so we have that. Then the question, of course, is there in the Constitution a time frame that is written into law within which the President needs to make that announcement? I made a couple of phone calls, and my thanks to a constitutional law expert, Professor Pierre de Vos, saying this is what it boils down to. Section 237 of the Constitution, all constitutional obligations on the President must be performed diligently and without delay. Question is, well, what is without delay? That is up for interpretation. He said it could be a day, it could be a week, could be a month at the most extreme, but the presidency has said within a week. So these are some of the issues that the President has to deal with. The ANC's Integrity Commission has called, if you look at media reports, up to 22 people will be called before the Integrity Commission. Those that have clouds hanging over their heads, that, number one, David Mabuza, the Deputy President of the ANC, asking for his swearing in to be postponed while he clears those allegations around him before the Integrity Commission. Himself and the national chairperson of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, the former Mineral Resources Minister, sitting before the Commission on Friday. You then have other big names. Batubile Dlamini, Minister of Women in the Presidency, former Social Development Minister, had adverse findings before the Constitutional Court. Reckless, grossly negligent in her handling of the SASA debacle, and another person that is going to be called before the Integrity Commission. Mosebenzi Zwane, known as a Gupta lieutenant from back in the day, was the former MEC for Agriculture in the Free State during the now infamous Freeda Dairy Project scandal. Also a man that unilaterally put out that statement saying that there was going to be a judicial inquiry into the banks after several of the Gupta-linked companies' bank accounts were blacklisted. So these are just some of the people. There is one glaring omission that is not before the Integrity Commission. Pravin Gordhan, the former Public Enterprises Minister. Just as recently as Friday, you have Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane making that adverse finding against him. We know from the very famous Nkandla judgment that the Public Protector's remedial action is binding until it is set aside by judicial review. That is exactly what Pravin Gordhan has done today. But the question then is, can he get his case heard before a court on an urgent basis? Firstly, can they hear the merits of that application before he announces his cabinet somewhere later this week?
Michael Apple, thank you very much for that timeline. In fact, we're going to stay with the story and bring in Professor Kwandi Wekondo. Prof, a lot being said. I was saying to Michael, as far as speculation, who's going to be in this cabinet, who's not going to be in, and the reasons for that. Are we making too much of it?
Yes, I think we live in exciting times, and especially with the hype around Tumamina and getting things done. You can understand this speculation that we are finding all over. Yes, but we need to wait and see and observe, of course.
Say we go with what we heard from the presidency spokesperson, Kusala Diko, that, the president is still very much applying his mind and a decision will be out by Friday. If you could have a word with the president in these hours, what considerations would you say he should bear in mind in deciding who gets appointed where?
I would advise the president to be a bold leader. It's important to consult the ANC. But a leader, real leaders don't consult throughout and all the time. They get to a point where they decide and nudge the entire organization in a new direction. It's important that he's so diplomatic, that he consults, but he can't please all of them. There has to be a point where he actually put his foot down, decide and move the country forward. That would be my first advice to him, yes. Because you can see in the ANC now that the whole baggage of factionalism and interests is actually coming in. And this could actually paralyze him as a leader.
But how much leeway, how much freedom does he have to make those bold decisions and not perhaps over-consult, given that we remember in the last days of the Zuma presidency, we had ANC leaders, members of the Tripartite Alliance saying, look, he's reshuffled his cabinet and without so much as letting us know. And I ask that question especially in the context of a Cyril Ramaphosa who may perhaps want to even seek a second term.
Yes, Mr. Mkhoto, that is a very difficult question indeed, because he has to play a very careful balancing act. But at the same time, he has to nudge the whole organization and country in a new direction. I would say, look, it's important for him to give time to consult, get the opinions and the views of people, and make sure that he also consults relevant ANC structures, because he needs the support of the party for his presidency to succeed. But most importantly is that he must break the neck of populism in the ANC.
Does he possess the sort of leadership to do that, do you think?
I think he can do that, because I don't think really he needs to be dragged down by the issue of Mr. Mabuza. If Mr. Mabuza has real issues to answer before the Integrity Commission and thereafter answer to the courts of law, it might actually be better to leave him out right now, because it could be a serious embarrassment to the Ramaphosa administration. I don't think he has to nurse populism. He needs to break its back.
Let's come to the issue of this trimming down of the cabinet, because in his last State of the Nation address, Cyril Ramaphosa did mention that it was indeed a consideration. A lot of people very much probed that decision as far as cutting costs on what we're spending on the executive. But as far as good, clean governance that delivers is concerned, would a smaller cabinet guarantee ticks right next to all of those corners, or all those boxes, do you think?
It wouldn't guarantee, but it will give us the conviction that ministers and deputy ministers really do the work they are supposed to be doing. We don't have a bloated cabinet. But most importantly, that interface between political leadership and administration in government is one issue which needs to be carefully looked into, because political leaders must not run the administrations of the various government departments. That's why you find that during the Zuma administration, we have a couple of them who were implicated in tender irregularities and so forth. Political leadership must oversee the policy direction and implementation of policy issues in the departments. But the heads of departments, the directors general, must actually lead the administration of those departments.
There's been great praise of Ramaphosa in the sense that since he became president early last year, and what we saw in Parliament last week in the National Assembly, he seemed to be getting on quite well with the opposition leaders, some now saying that perhaps he should flirt with the idea of including some people from the opposition, maybe a leader or two in his cabinet. Do you think that would work?
I don't
Is
think
that even sound?
I don't think he'll do with the current ANC. Because with the current ANC, it's deeply divided and there's a lot of jostling for positions. Politics of the stomach, you see, are so clear and bare in the ANC. He can't do it with this ANC. Perhaps later, when he has consolidated his grounds within the party and in the state, he can do it in the next term, but not this term.
Strategically, do you think it would neutralize the opposition if some of them were to be included in government?
Yes, it would. I think it would.
Right, Professor Kwanti, as always, thank you for coming in.
Thanks to Vigile.